Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. My name is Eric, flying a little Han Solo on today's epi, as we are treated to a pair of, bangers are a little bit overused, but intriguing matchups on the Rift. We've got undefeated squads falling, and more importantly, probably most definitely the biggest, most ridiculous comeback you might see in all of 2026, and we're only a couple of weeks into the actual split, but a rematch of the World Finals from last year, the Telecom War, one of the best, most fun rivalries of all time, and I don't know if this is a Season 16 thing to even have a comeback like this be a possibility, but KT Rolster up nearly 14,000 gold, 15 kills to 1. They have a game where they have 3 Barons, an Elder Dragon, and an Ocean Soul. If I purely just gave you those stats, not on this realm of existence would you ever think a team is going to lose that game. But that is exactly what happened to KT as their hearts and souls left their bodies for a second time matching up against T1. First time since that Game 5 loss in the World Finals, but this game was truly something, and obviously it probably doesn't happen if, you don't have an Azir and an Aphelios on the side of T1, but this looked so good from the start for KT. They were finding perfect team fights. They were dancing around T1. T1 looked a little not so locked in, and now in hindsight, I'm legitimately convinced that they were just looking for treating this like a scrim, like some extra type of practice, like limit testing how far they can come back from, and what a treat for Pays to be on here. I mean, there's so much to go into in this game. First and foremost, owners on the Dr. Mundo, and we know, the memes from Worlds last year, now it's become his iconic pick for all the wrong reasons, but now it might be the right reasons after this matchup, but somehow this Mundo isn't even that tanky, but there's still the combo of Aphelios and Azir just does so much damage, even when you're down 14k. It's one misstep for incredibly tanky champions like Kaza Sejuani or Perfects on the Rec side, but T1, they eventually go down 3 inhibs. Even when they get that Elder Dragon to kind of get them back into this game, they're still so far away from being able to come back. KT kind of resets things. They get another Baron to push back into the base of T1, and then the 3 inhibs, it's still not enough. The Baron even goes down to 1 HP, by the way, when T1 does get a Baron, but T1 gets a Baron and it doesn't matter. All it does is give them a little bit of a Baron power play, cuts the gold deficit into half maybe, but still, Cuz just walks in and gets completely blown up. Even though they're the ones with Elder Dragon, BDD doesn't even get to really cast any abilities, and it's absolute lunacy that T1 has any business being in this game. Yes, it takes them 46 minutes. Yes, 4 out of the 5 members did 34,000 plus damage in this game. But when you look at the gold graph for this one, it's absolutely nutty. There's like an under the sea Grand Canyon graph out of KT, and then one little pocket of blue for T1 as they really only got the gold lead back on that final push, which ended up being a 2k gold lead. They got 2,300 gold purely from objective bounties in this game to get back into it. I don't think listen, 10k gold deficit, 10k comebacks are one thing. You're not going to see a 14k comeback again this year, because that is silly. And T1 has been doing silly things for their entire existence, but this is at the absolute top to do this, to stay undefeated and just a clean 2-0 against KT. What a devastating loss for BDD and the boys, though. That's an absolute rough one, and another MVP for Faker. What is this guy? Why is he so good early on in the split? Why is he so locked in? He should be burnt out from this preseason excursion expedition that T1 had, but somehow he and the rest of the boys are absolutely locked in, and you would be forgiven if you forgot there even was a game 1 in this series where Faker was solo killing BDD at level 3. Curious picking in the Lissandra support to counter the Rakan out of Palu, and I don't know why T1 is so locked in right now, whether it's just being fully remotivated with Pays, but this was some egregious Oscar-worthy level of plot armor that they had in this second game. Because, look, game 1, they looked clean, and it was pretty calm, cool, collected, and controlled out of T1 to go up 1-0, but this second game was just... oh, man. Absolute insanity. They had absolutely no business winning that game, and they weren't even laughing super hard after winning that one, which, I mean, I would be laughing if I won a solo queue game in that fashion. They did it, obviously, on the professional stage, which is another level entirely. But, yeah, you're not going to see this one matched, and hopefully KT can bounce back. But T1 fans absolutely having a fun time on the Rift, and you know what? At the very least, this adds a nice new chapter to the telecom war, the KT-T1 rivalry, in a now going on multi-decade long rivalry. This is one that goes to the very tippity top, and like many of the other ones, KT on the wrong side of history on that one. Not only did we have this insane comeback out of T1, but we also had a marquee JDG versus BLG matchup on the day, and everyone has been harsh, heavily criticizing HongQ in his very early start to JDG. Well, criticize no more, because the head-to-head against Knight, who has been absolutely stomping through the first 4 series for BLG. Not only does HongQ get a solo kill on him in this series, but there were not 14k type of gold comebacks, but comebacks nonetheless, as JJ also got a clutch Baron steal on the one-way ticket Malphite in this one. And this was a very competitive series. We've been asking, there needs to be an actual measuring stick, an actual test, and admirable rival for Billy. Case in point, JDG arrives. We see them touch the ceiling that we've talked about with this new revamped lineup, as not only did HongQ have a great first game on the rise against BLG, but he just had a fantastic series across. And you can look at the mid lane as a standout part, but also you can talk about the bot lane, as one of the big points for Gala was some absolutely pixel perfect cleanses and Mikhails out of him in this game on a couple of Bin Renekton flanks, and really he kind of gapped ya boy Viper in both of these matchups. And I think Viper early on in the season, because Bin and Knight have been so dominant in their first 4 series, you haven't really had to talk about him much, but he's kind of been a passenger princess for those first 4 series, and there was no royalty, no princessing to be had in this one, because he kind of got slapped around by Gala and Vampire and JDG in general, as the second game is where we get HongQ's immaculate Ahri performance, as the LPL English broadcasts continue to be janky as ever. But Viper in both the Varus and a Yunara game. Yunara, we know, is busted and does a lot of damage. He did less damage across both of these games than Gala did in game 2 alone. He only did around 17,000 damage in both of these games. Gala did like 48,000 on Aphelios, and he almost doubled that just in the Sivir game. So Viper absolutely on sus watch early on here for a 4-1 BLG squad, but everybody was looking clean on JDG. That Nico engaged by Vampire, only nullified by a great Bard ulti out of On. Otherwise, that is a massive highlight reel play in itself. But I think JDG was down close to 5k. It was at least 4k at one point in this second game, which I know seems like absolute pennies now compared to this 14k comeback that T1 did have. But super stoked to see JDG playing at this level. They looked more excited winning this series than T1 did in a 14k deficit. I guess that's just T1 things, not feeling that way. But fantastic out of them, and this is the rivalry that we need. We need BLG to be pushed. We need them to be tested, and again, bot lane going to be something to monitor for BLG as we move forward on the split. But I'm so glad HongQ had an absolutely Knight is the guy to have a series like this against because he solo kills him in game 1 and he was absolutely everywhere on the Ahri in game 2. So delighted to see him playing at this level. And I mean, JDG can win the split if they play like they did today against BLG. So absolutely blessed to some intriguing undersells it. Fantastic matchups on a Friday as we head into the weekend. We got the debut of the LCS. LEC going to double up their game total, LCK and LPL. We are now fully into the peak swing of things for 2026. And you know, Mark and I will be back on Monday to break it all down. But again, I guarantee you, take it to the bank, it will never happen. A 14K gold deficit comeback will not happen for the rest of 2026. But that is it today for League Unlocked. My name is Eric, as always. Thank you for hanging out and supporting us, as always. And we will catch you on that flippity flip.